Ruben Amorim has set a transfer deadline to sign a new left-back, as Fabrizio Romano says to keep an eye on Milos Kerkez to Man United. Dani Olmo's agent is in Manchester ahead of a potential free transfer. Man United are waiting approval to sign a South African midfielder and concrete interest in a January exit for Antony. That's what we've got coming up for you in today's rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So loads of news to go through that's been coming out today and yesterday, surprisingly, considering it was Christmas. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas for those that celebrate it as well. So let's kick off. Let's just go straight through let's start with the left-back situation, because we know the left-back situation is a priority position for United. It's been like a year since we had a consistent left-back playing for us. Obviously, Malaysia has just come back from a long injury. Doesn't look the best, and Luke Shaw's consistently injured, so we can't really rely on him. So it is an area of concern, and I do think an area that we are looking to strengthen, and potentially in January. So let's go through what's been said. So Ruben Amorim has set Manchester United's recruitment staff a 2-week deadline to acquire a left wing-back after the January transfer window opens. That came from Dean Jones. Dean Jones is a decent source, but not the most credible. But I don't believe, I believe that that's not beyond the realms of impossible, that Amorim said, look, I need a left back as soon as possible when the transfer window opens. But we'll have to wait and see what kind of happens, because we know we're on a bit of an FFP tightrope. So whether we're relying more on sales to get somebody in, but, would be an interesting kind of take to and it would be in our favour, to get a left back in as soon as possible, because I do think it is a priority area, because it's not just the impact it has on our performances and that particular position. It has an impact on Mazraoui and Dalot and other players as well, because we can't rotate as much as we need to without having anybody else to play that position. We're having to rely on Dalot, who's not been in good form this season. Mazraoui's starting to dip a little bit, I think, because he's being overplayed as well. So it is a massive issue not having a left wing back. So yeah, that would be, for me, if that story's to be believed, that would be really good if we can get one in as soon as possible. And then let's go through the names that have been linked as well. So Manchester United are fairly confident in signing a new left-back early in the January transfer window. The club have interest in Girona's Miguel Gutierrez and a buyback clause for Alvaro Carreras. Two names that we've been heavily linked with. They shouldn't come as surprises to you. Gutierrez is a player that we've been linked with for a while, and obviously Alvaro is one that we sold. And has had a really good kind of season so far for Benfica. In terms of cost, Alvaro's buyback clause is about £16 million. I think Gutierrez would cost a lot more than that as well. And is that one that we have the funds for January? I'm not so sure. The credibility of the source as well, I don't know. The Marca UK journalist posted by a more credible outlet, but I would say potentially take that with a pinch of salt. That sounded a little bit like a bandwagon jumping story where they're putting names out there to maybe generate interest and generate views. But two players that we have been linked with before for the left-back position. Manchester United are more concrete than Liverpool for Milos Kerkez. Keep an eye on Kerkez to United. Fabrizio Romano, one of the most credible sources out there in terms of football transfer rumours, and he is a player that Romano himself has been linking us for a while now, probably going back 12 months. Milos Kerkez, very interesting player. Obviously playing for Bournemouth, who are in front of us in the league. That nearly made me throw up in my mouth saying that out loud. Obviously Premier League proven. I don't think he's on a particularly long-term contract as well. Ticks the boxes of being young, up and coming, developmental, would add some physicality to the team as well. As I mentioned, Premier League proven. Does tick a lot of boxes, Milos Kerkez. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Milos Kerkez is more likely to join Manchester United than Liverpool. The player has personal connections to United via family, and this is a driving factor. Now, that came from a Liverpool aggregator outlet. I don't know the credibility of, because I don't follow Liverpool. But they're suggesting that Kerkez would prefer to go to United above Liverpool because maybe his family are United fans. That would make sense to me as well. So, because it's always been believed that Liverpool were also interested in a left back. So that's kind of an interesting update as well, that Kerkez would potentially choose United over Liverpool. Now, Nuno Mendes, a name that we've been linked with over the last couple of weeks, is a preferred choice as left back as Luke Shaw's replacement, and he is pleased about Manchester United's interest in him. That came from Court Offside. Court Offside have some credible journalists working for them and not credible. That unfortunately came from one of their lesser kind of credible sources, but he is a name that we have been linked with in the last few days. Nuno Mendes, but would be expensive. Apparently there's some kind of contract issue though with PSG, whether we're being used to by the agent to get him a better deal at PSG, who knows, but would be a very expensive option for January. And then another left back we've been linked with, Alphonso Davies. David Ornstein, the best transfer kind of journalist around, in my opinion, said that Alphonso Davies is currently not considered a priority target for David Ornstein. So loads of names there. They shouldn't necessarily come as surprises because they're all names that we have been heavily linked with for the left back or left wing back position in the past. Gutierrez, Alvaro Carreras, Nuno Mendes, Alphonso Davies. Do you know what I mean? So just to kind of summarize, Davis, not a priority according to David Ornstein. You can take that, as gospel almost, because in my opinion, Ornstein's the best around. So whether that's because we were not that heavily linked with him or interested in him in the first place, and we're being used for, as agent talk or to get clicks by people like Florian Plettenberg, for example, who's linked us with a lot of players and a lot with Alphonso Davies in the past. I do think we were interested in Davies. It's probably we've just heard that either he's going to sign a new deal at Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. I've always seen as the favourites. I've always maintained that I would love us to get Alphonso Davies, but I don't think it's realistic. I think he's either going to go to Real Madrid or he's going to stay at Bayern Munich personally. Nuno Mendes would be an interesting one. Very expensive, though, for January. Whether we've got those funds available, I highly doubt, unless we do a madness and sell somebody big, potentially. But, has a link with Amorim, played at Sporting as well, so he has that kind of connection. And then you've got, Gutierrez, Alfonso. We've been linked with all of these players. Milos Kerkez, though, is one that we have been heavily linked with as well. And they all kind of have pros and cons, really. I mean, I generally think they do. Mendes, as I mentioned there, has that kind of connection with Amorim, so knows the system, would kind of be able to come in, I think, and play that role relatively quickly and easily because he's done it before, and is a very attacking player. Milos Kerkez, Premier League proven, got development in him as one of the youngest ones linked. Alvaro's been at the club before, would be the cheapest in terms of price, I think £16 million, and Gutierrez is another fantastic option as well, but not Premier League proven. So there are question marks around all of those, but the sad thing is that I would take any of them, because any of them would be better than effectively nobody that we played for most of the time, or definitely would be better than Dalot playing there and Malacia playing there as well, because Luke Shaw can't be relied on. And I don't think his position will be left fullback neither, even if he was fit. I think he's going to fill in that left centre-back position and be potentially a rotation for Martinez in there. So it's definitely an area that we need to look in. Let me know in the comments, though, who you would prefer for the left wing-back position. Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on it. So let's go through some other news. So over 2025 and 2026, financial fair play is going to be a really important topic for Manchester United. Generating revenue from player sales will be very important for the club. That came from Fabrizio Romano. We know that already, that we're in a position where we have to sell to Bayern with PSR rules and the debt that we're in and all of the kind of financial restraints. Then selling players is going to be a priority for us. Maybe that's what's going on with Rashford. Obviously, there's been loads of noise recently about potentially Garnacho being sold as well, because these players, unfortunately, will generate us the most money. And if we're looking to strengthen the squad and have a massive overhaul like we are, we're going to need the funds in to do that. So, it is one of these. And then there was a report last week about Sir Jim kind of telling people, look, about the youth and the reserve team players, saying, look, if they're not first team ready, then can we sell some of those as well, like we've done with Willy Cambola and Alvaro Fernandez that we just mentioned there? Sold them, got a buyback and sell on clauses and all that as well. They might look to do some of that with the youth teams as well in order to generate that money in. So yeah, Romano kind of confirmed that it is going to be a big issue for us going forward, but it's going to be a big issue for every club. It's a really kind of difficult situation for teams balancing the books with the FFP rules the way that they are at the moment. Now, Harry Amas could go out on loan in January to earn first team minutes, to earn the first minutes of his career as a starter. That came from The Athletic. Very good source. Harry Amas is not seen, like technically I think he would be an ideal at the left back position, but he's not seen as physically ready. So they're looking to loan him out to build up his physicality and see what he's all about. And then potentially he could be one that if he doesn't make it, could be sold with the buyback and the kind of sell-on clauses. So sending him out on loan is going to be good for two reasons. One, you're either going to develop him physically, or two, if he's not quite good enough, then potentially someone might buy him for a couple of quid, and then we can kind of use that money to help improve the squad in other areas as well. So that's the kind of model I think that they're looking at going forward. Another potential player that was linked with a loan is Toby Collier, saying several championship clubs are interested in signing Toby Collier on loan in January. He is likely to stay at the club to provide midfield support. Again, came from The Athletic. Very credible source when it comes to it, suggesting that potentially Collier is going to stay. But he's the one that you would kind of say as the example of what Sir Jim is saying, where, well, if he's not playing, what's the point in him not playing in the reserves or playing for the reserves, not quite ready for the first team, loan him or sell him? Do you know what I mean? Do something with him, because him sitting on the bench and not getting minutes is not really helping his career at his age. I think he should, like some of these young players should just be playing football somewhere, whether that is on loan or whether we do just sell them but have like a buyback clause in. I think is the best for the club. For some players, obviously we still need to have players around the place to help with training and stuff, but he would be a good kind of case to kind of put your bring that point across. But let me know what you think about those in the comments. Now, another player that we've been linked with an exit in January is Marcus Rashford. So Rashford's favourite destination in Spain is Barcelona. He believes his skills fit well with the club's style of play. Barcelona is aware of his situation, but so far has not made a move to sign him. Now, they came from Sport, Spanish outlet, fairly credible actually, to be fair. In terms of that, suggesting that Marcus Rashford's preferred team in Spain would be Barcelona. It's not the first time Marcus has been linked with a move to Barcelona. It'd be really interesting actually, because I'm going to go through the Dani Olmo news in a second, which is really interesting because the financial situation at Barcelona is not the best. They're struggling to register Dani Olmo. Again, we'll cover that in a second. But David Ornstein was mentioning around potentially the best solution for the Rashford situation would be a loan in January. And remember, I did a video last week where Jamie Jackson and Henry Winter, a few other people were saying around potentially a loan for Marcus in the similar way we did with Sancho, in a similar way that we did with Greenwood, where they can go on loan. We'll cover some of their wages, so that would help Barcelona financially, so they don't have to. So they'll be able to register him, and then if he does really well, that just increases his value for the summer, which is better for us for PSR rules and profit and the financial fair play restrictions that we've just mentioned. But then also, if we don't want him around the place for whatever reason, then he's not available. He's obviously not at the club, and we don't have this whole kind of circus going on around him with daily stories and stuff as well. So that's potentially one, to keep an eye on, because it's not the first time he's been linked with potentially a move to Barcelona. But let's go through the Dani Olmo news. So Manchester United are interested in Dani Olmo, and the player's agent is in Manchester exploring options. Now, that came from the BBC Sport, who are a very credible, not an Ornstein or a Romano, but they're a credible source. They're not like rumory or bullshitty or anything, suggesting that Dani Olmo's agent is in Manchester exploring options. That could be Manchester City, though, unfortunately, because they're in a position where they need to strengthen. They've probably got more money available than us because they didn't really spend anything in the summer, and they do need, and I think Guardiola's come out in interviews saying, yeah, they are looking to buy players in January, but that would be a wicked option for us because he can come in and play in that kind of inside 10 position. Obviously, we've got Mount injured. There's some Antony updates I'm going to go for in a second. Rashford's clearly not in favour at the moment. Question marks around Garnacho. So all of a sudden, that kind of inside 10 position is a little bit of a concern, where it looked like at one point we had loads of options there where actually we're kind of down to effectively two, really, with Ahmad and Bruno, with Garnacho not being playing, and the Rashford situation, the Antony situation, which I'll mention in a second. So that would be a really interesting. In fact, he'd be a fantastic player to fit to. Like, I could see him fitting in that position kind of really well. Now, the next story, though, it's kind of similar, where they were saying that Dani Olmo's agent arrived in Manchester today as Premier League clubs look to take advantage of Barcelona's battle to register the dynamic Spain international with La Liga ahead of the January the 1st deadline. Olmo was a £50 million signing from Red Bull Leipzig in the summer, but could only be registered on a temporary agreement until the end of the calendar year, owing to La Liga's ongoing financial constraints. on Barcelona, it means Olmo can leave as a free agent if Spain's Football Federation continue to block his registration for the second part of the season as they push for the Catalan giants to make more cuts, find more revenue, and comply with their financial guidelines. So if Barcelona don't find the money to register Dani Olmo, he could be available as a free agent as well. Or if they want to get some money to be able to kind of do other bits, because who knows what their other financial situation is like, he could be available on the cheap as well. So that would be an absolutely fantastic option. I'd want to wait for a bit more credibility though. And I get the feeling that if he's in Manchester, it might be Manchester City that would be looking at him, because they can offer, obviously they're got more money than us, and and all of the other things kind of going around. But that would be a really interesting option. Let me know I'd love to know your thoughts on Dani Olmo. I think he would tick a lot of boxes, and that is definitely one to keep an eye on. I'll bring you any updates if it develops, but that would be really interesting, as I mentioned, especially if Marcus is potentially going to go to Barca on loan. Could we do like a deal? Could be something in that. Let me know what you think though in the comments. Now, this is a really interesting kind of update as well. So Manchester United are in negotiations with Malayan club Jaleba to sign defensive midfielder Daba Diakité. United are waiting for approval from the side to submit a formal offer. Now, that came from Sport Witness, who are not the most credible kind of outlet, but that seems way too made up for it to not be believed. Like, why would you just pick a random name from, like a random team? So I actually kind of believe that. I think there could be something in this. I don't know anything about the player, 20-year-old defensive midfielder. Other than that, there's not that much information on him. Looks okay, but not a player I've ever heard of or ever seen or anything like that. Let me know in the comments if you have and what he's all about. Doing some research. Again, the very limited information and kind of updates and highlights and that available for him. But these are the sort of players that I love. Love us getting linked with these sort of players. Young, developmental, would clearly be well scouted from an unknown team. Low risk because it's not going to cost massive amounts to sign for him. You'll probably make money even if it doesn't work anyway if you sold him on once he becomes a Manchester United player. Ticks all the kind of boxes. There were stories when we signed Kone as well, saying that United were looking to go back in or tap into the South African market, because it's, again, like the South American one, it's an area that we haven't kind of tapped into for years. Would have Christopher Vivell's fingerprints all over it if true as well. So that's one to keep an eye on. Really interesting option, and one that are kind of, like I said, it seems too random to not be true, in my opinion. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you, again coming from Fabrizio Romano, saying that a number of clubs have expressed interest in signing Antony on loan in January. United have yet to make a decision. Now, Fabrizio Romano did an interview with Antony's agent, where effectively, and to kind of summarize it, he said that yes, there is interest from other teams regarding Antony. Manchester United, though, have not yet made it clear as to what they want to do with Antony. So then, and that Antony is still, waiting basically for Manchester United's decision in terms of what they want to do with him. But that was really interesting, because the problem with Antony has always been, where's the interest coming from? Where is he going to go if United look to sell him and move him on, or put him out on loan potentially in January? Again, similar to what they might be doing with Rashford or what they did with Sancho and Greenwood. Either get him to pick up some form so we can sell him in the summer, or look to just get him out of the club in January and kind of bite the bullet on the loss that we're going to take on him. So really kind of interesting that this is the first time that his agent actually did an interview with Romano saying, yeah, there is concrete interest from other teams as well, which can only be helpful for us. But it's down to United. United have still not made the decision yet on what they want to do with Antony. And again, a lot of that will come from, obviously Mount's been injured, Rashford situation we've discussed, Garnacho's not seemingly in favour at the moment, question marks over him. It just leaves us with Bruno and Amma. So we are light in that position, regardless of whether I think Antony's a good player or not. He is a body that could, can do a job, and he had a couple of decent-ish, for him anyway, sub appearances. Although when he started the other day, he was absolutely terrible against Tottenham, wasn't it? But it's whether United can do that kind of what they want to do. They've not made a decision yet, but it's kind of good for me that actually there is concrete interest in Antony should we decide to do something with him in January. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.